Not sitting in the seat this morning, and so she is traveling and she would like to participate remotely. So the first thing we're going to do before we get into the agenda is to have a motion to allow her to participate during discussion by comment. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
In the past, what we've done is now we have counsel here. We were also advised that she's not allowed to vote because she's participating.
Right, that's what I said. Discussion, comments during discussion. The mayor doesn't have a vote normally.
Now she really doesn't have a vote.
Okay, let's get serious again and get on with the invocation. Please rise and remain standing for the invocation.
Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, we ask that you bless this town, keep it a beautiful and friendly place to live. Pray for your guidance to enable this board to work together in unity to make fair and informed decisions today. We pray for your support for those affected by Hurricane Helene, both here in our great state and throughout the Southeast. We also pause to remember the sacrifices of the 241 Marines, sailors, and soldiers killed as we mark the 41st anniversary of the terrorist attack on the U.S. Marine compound in Beirut, Lebanon, later this month on October the 23rd. Please keep their loved ones close. We also pray that our police officers, firefighters, and members of the armed services here and around the world remain safe as they risk so much for our security. We also pray that our town be spared the ravages of hurricanes and other natural disasters, and that everyone associated with the town remains safe and secure. We ask this in his name. Amen.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, approval of the agenda. I think that we've been requested to have a motion to amend the agenda by having a change order for the fire station.
Yep. I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to include a discussion about a change order to the firehouse. As sent to us, it's about a $9,000 adjustment, change order to a $6 million project, which is 0.001%. But I would like the motion to add that to the agenda.
All right, thank you, Alderman Grant. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Alderman Leonard. Is there discussion? Do we want to put that in the consent agenda?
Yes.
I don't think there's a need to discuss it.
Okay.
Manager?
And I'll brief everyone on that in my
Okay.
report.
That's fine. So I would add that we add it to the consent agenda.
Okay, fine, thank you. Let's vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, manager's report. Manager Durian.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Benson. Good morning, everyone. As you're aware, I reported at the last board meeting, a request for proposals for municipal legal services was issued on August 2nd. Since the last meeting, I have interviewed two firms that had submitted proposals and supplied those questions and answers to the board for review and any for consensus back. So I have included on the agenda for you all to make a motion to approve the contract for legal services with Summerall Sugg PA law firm as presented, and it will be effective October 2nd, 2024.
I'd like to make the motion to approve the contract for legal services as presented.
Second.
All right, thank you, Alderman Grant, and for the second, Alderman Leonard, thank you. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Continue.
And we have with us this morning, we have two attorneys from the firm, Trey Ferguson and Chip Payson. So if you would come up to the dais and join us.
Thank you all.
Now you
Thank you. I look forward to working with the town.
All right.
Okay, I'll continue on with my report. Beach projects and operations. I'm pleased to report that we have received our camera permit for the beach matting. I had to amend our order for the length of the matting per the field inspection. I revised the order to make one access longer and one access shorter. The final order was 2 5-foot wide sections of matting, one at 110 feet long and one at 73 foot long. Mats are expected to be shipped the second week of October, and we have had an active storm season, so I will likely pause on installation till end of November. But I just wanted to let the board know that we have received our permit and the order has been processed, and we should receive that next week. Storm updates. We've had a very active month since the last meeting with storms, Tropical Storm Debbie and potential Tropical Cyclone number 8. Specifically, I reported at the last meeting, post-Tropical Storm Debbie, that the board provided consensus on moving forward with an emergency push, and that was in the area of Topsail Dunes for the approximate amount of $7,000 that was going to come out of the Shoreline Protection Fund. This plan is subject to change based on the unnamed storm event that was potential Tropical Cyclone number 8. I requested our engineers to do a full beach survey that started on September 17th. We may have to pivot and discuss a truck haul project depending on those survey results. I contacted TI Coastal for an update. They have finished surveying last Friday, and they're working to process the work. They were working on that yesterday. They are hoping to get the maps and the volumes completed at some point today, and I expect to be able to share those results with the Board of Aldermen this week for review, and I would expect this to be discussed by our engineer at the November meeting, and then give possible recommendations for the board to consider at that time. Staff from multiple departments, including our fire department, our police, code enforcement, have been out on the beach removing debris since September 17th. As of yesterday, we've picked up the large majority of the debris. There's not much left. Mostly consisted of wood construction items, mostly from wooden crossovers that were either from our beach area or washed up from other areas. We completed an assessment of our town-owned crossovers following the storm and found that 2 required repairs, one at Marina Way and one at Oyster Lane. The one at Marina Way, of course, was more severely damaged. I'm in the process of reviewing quotes for Marina Way now. We've got 2 quotes in so far, but because of the scope of the work that's required on that, I'm reviewing those in more detail and have requested 3 quotes. Thank you to our staff who has worked on all of the post-storm tasks. The fire department, they were instrumental in pumping all the water off of the Island Drive area and helped to scrape sand from the roadway, specifically down on the north end. Thank you to code enforcement. Our code enforcement officer was out on the beach daily, picking up loads of debris nonstop. And also our police department, who has assisted with removing debris as well and deploying road signage for when the roadways needed closed, particularly up on the north end. So thank you. And our IT director, who always helps me get everything posted in a timely manner. So thank you. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Post-event, I've spoken with the county manager to relay conditions with his, so that he knew our current conditions when he spoke with Senator Lazara. I've also spoken with the Assistant Director for North Carolina Emergency Management. My discussion with the state about beach conditions prompted them to contact the County Emergency Management Team. We received notification that Governor Cooper amended Executive Order number 314 on September 18th, expanding the emergency area to additional counties, which will include Onslow County. I, along with the fire chief, met with the County Emergency Management Director and the assistant the next day for them to ride the beach and to see the areas of erosion. They took plenty of pictures and got documentation. It was fortunate that I did have the conversation with the state because Onslow County was not on their radar to include at that point in time. FEMA has not, of course, made any declarations at this point in time, but it may be one of those situations that becomes a latent declaration. And the situation is also dependent, of course, if the state and county meet threshold limits for these type of events. Regardless of declarations, we have been responding and tracking everything storm-related to include time, equipment, and debris removal. All storms are unique and come with their own unique set of challenges. If this was a major storm, we of course would have deployed Crowder Gulf, Tetra Tech, but these small type storms often require a lot more staff and internal coordination, which we did, and we've been proactive in checking those boxes in the event that we are able to submit for any type of reimbursement.
Just a quick comment on that. Thank you for being proactive and getting that. If we hadn't gotten Onslow County to get that designation, we had zero chance of getting any recovery of the funds, right?
Yeah, that's a big thing. That was a huge thing. It really was. She did for the county what the county should have done for the county by picking up the phone and talking to somebody at the state. That was huge.
Well, it was, and again, it was almost immediate. The state contacted the county, and the county was here the next day, very responsive, very supportive. Once I get the survey results from the engineer, we've already discussed that I will provide them that information where they will submit through WebEOC the extent of the damages and any estimates so that gets funneled through the correct channels.
Thanks for stepping up to the plate.
Last week, our area was affected by spectrum outages, as everyone knows, due to Hurricane Helene. We deployed our Starlink satellite system that we recently purchased, and we were able to remain 100% operational. So thank you to our IT director for setting this up and keeping us going. But we were out for an entire day, so that was worth the money this year. Next item, North Carolina Department of Transportation. I've spoken to many different branches of the DOT throughout this month for all areas that we've been working on with different things. Number one, with the intent to repeal the speed limit 45, ordinance number 1033725 for the 3.92 mile section of New River Inlet Road. No further communication has been received from the DOT at this point since the last meeting. Per the board, once information is received, we will then place it on a future agenda for the board's consideration and discussion.
This is the one a month ago that they told us they would have a letter to us outline the process. Remember this? We went through and what we need to do and what we have to change and everything else. So this is kind of consistent with the timing on how long it's taken to get the crosswalks too, huh?
Well, that leads me into the next item, which is the crosswalk project. Al Cablé, or Public Works Supervisor, who's recently departed, he presented at the last meeting the latest update. I talked to DOT yesterday about the status of our encroachment permit for the crosswalk at Villa Capriani. They're requesting additional documentation that specifies that we will take responsibility for the maintenance of the crosswalk once it's installed. I relayed that was contained in documentation that our Public Works Supervisor did previously submit, but we'll go back, pull that documentation out, and if needed, we'll provide a separate letter that again states that by installing this, we are the town is approving maintenance responsibility of that crosswalk that we discussed months ago. Roadway repairs. Since the recent storms, roadway erosion was reported near 2342 New River Inlet Road, and I've reported that and have been informed that the Onslow County maintenance engineer is reviewing this at this point in time. So that was just given to him this week. So that might take a while, but they have acknowledged it and are working on it. Fire station number 2, we talked about briefly with amending the agenda. Our owner architect contractor meetings continue on a bi-weekly basis as they have been. recently completed tasks have been the stone selection has been completed. A lot of discussion coordination this month with Joe MC has taken place on a pole-mounted transformer. And then, of course, the change order for $9,142 that was received and was recommended by Becker Morgan Group Incorporated, which of course is our architect and our project manager. The chief and I have met with the architect to discuss this proposal. We've had multiple discussions since receiving it. The masonry company proposed to convert the north and south walls of the elevator from 8-inch CMU to 10-inch CMU, which is just concrete blocks. That includes the upgraded blocking, additional mortar, grout accessories. The elevator manufacturer needed to increase the wall thickness, and that was to house the controller panels. The elevator that we proposed has openings on 2 sides. So we need to accommodate the control panels on each side, so which required the upgraded blocking. Last but not least, I tried to keep it as short as possible. Halloween event, Richard Peters Park, October 23rd at 5:00 p.m. Once again, thank you to Pet Supplies Plus for sponsoring it. It'll be a pet parade, costume, and contest. It's free to attend. Thanks to Pet Supply Plus. We hope to see you there. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions for Manager Durian? Okay. Open forum. Who has signed up, Manager?
Susan Meyer, 2224 New River Inlet Road.
Okay.
Good morning. Do you need me to state my name and address again? Okay. Susan Meyer, 2224 New River Inlet Road, Unit 138. I'm speaking today on behalf of the Planning Board. I was hoping that the board might reconsider the first Thursday, moving it back to the second Thursday for our meetings for 2 reasons. One is it was changed mainly to because of Mr. Eads' schedule. It fit better for him. The other reason is if you guys want the planning board, if you come up with something and you'd like the planning board to consider it, it could still get put on our agenda a week later, but a day later, probably not. So it would put things a whole nother month behind the other way. And the other consideration I'd like for y'all to revisit is adding 2 more to the actual panel, as it is listed in the UDO that we have 7 members. So right now we're listing that we have 2 vacancies. Even though we got 2 alternates, it's not quite the same. Anyway, I'd just like for you guys to consider that. Thank you.
We don't normally comment on public comments, but I have to ask the board, can't the committee set their meeting days? The board doesn't necessarily set their meeting days.
Right. I'm assuming you're speaking
Well,
as the chairman of the board too, right?
Yes. Well, you all did decide that we would have it on the on the first Thursday.
And then
So,
I didn't.
What does the manager have to say about it?
well, it's subject to the availability of the town attorneys as well.
If the Board of Aldermen set the meeting, and if that's an ordinance, then yes, the Board of Aldermen would need to reset it. If that's not an ordinance, then the planning board can dictate the time of the meeting, and we can work with the planning board chair about availability for an attorney present at those meetings and try to reschedule them.
Okay, I mean, the only comment I had is exactly where you're going. As long as the board can coordinate it to make sure we don't have the same issue with council not showing up, I would
Right.
think.
because even though we did change it, we didn't have council.
I know, I know. There is an irony to that, Susan.
I wasn't going to bring that up. Okay, well, thank you.
Change in schedule won't be a problem for us.
It wouldn't be. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, then we'll address it tomorrow night at our meeting.
Okay, Susan, so you coordinate with the new attorneys. All right. Yeah, it'll be on the website.
We know the next one is.
Jeff Meyer, 2224 New River Inlet
Is
Road.
this like a tag team or something?
Jeff Meyer, 2224 New River Inlet Road, Unit 138. The Topsail Reef has a problem and has concern with people cutting through the property using our accesses. I would like the board to consider reopening the public access to the north of the reef. My understanding, I could be incorrect, I think that property years and years ago was donated to the town for public access, and it has been closed since Florence. And that would help alleviate some of the traffic through the reef. So if we all would consider reopening that public access, it would be appreciated. Thank you.
Did it have an access number that you remember?
Okay, I can speak to that. The issue was that when we were going to rebuild that access after Florence, was part of that access required an easement from, or an agreement from the property owner who was in the duplex, the southernmost duplex, the one closest to Topsail Reef. And they've since gone, they've sold, I think that house has turned over at least twice. They actually had walked away from the house and it went into foreclosure, but Mr., I can't think of his name now, he refused the town's request for an easement because part of that crossed over into private property. But he's gone now. I mean, the house has probably been sold 2 or 3 times.
That was the south side, right?
Yeah, Mr. Polanco.
There
Mr.
was one on
Polanco's
the
house.
north side, the north buildings, like,
No,
which you first.
this is the one on the north end,
talking
next to the
about
duplex, yeah.
Okay.
Next to that first duplex, that there was that wood crossover that went all the
Okay.
way from New River Inlet Road. It sits between the parking lot, the north end of the parking lot of the reef, and that first house that was owned by the Polanco family.
Okay.
Okay, he was the one who wouldn't work with the town. They're long gone. Maybe we go back and see what we can do.
I mean, my suggestion is real simple. I think the consensus is just to have the manager look into this. Right now, I have no idea what we're talking about or what we need, so.
The problem, if we do get permission, is there's about a 10-foot-high wall of sandbags blocking the access to the beach, and that was the reason in the first place. I think it had to be closed because we didn't have a big enough crossover we could build there with all those sandbags in that corner. So that's going to be something that's going to have to be addressed, even if we can get the owner's permission to. And I agree, reinstall a crosswalk at that location. For the rest of it you were talking about would be close to Coastal Drive crossover.
But I think it sounds like the consensus, Mike, is have her look into the issue.
Yeah, I think that's where we're at. Yep.
Pat Moylan, 231 Seashore Drive.
Patricia Moylan, 231 Seashore Drive. 2 years ago, I was here and I asked about a bulk pickup, garbage pickup. I was told you had a weed pickup. I'm still wondering where is the garbage pickup for bulk? Surf City has one, we don't have one. Why not?
We used to have
Look,
a situation several years ago where you could, twice a year, when we had the debris pickup, or not, yard waste, excuse me, yard waste, not debris, yard waste pickup, could pile it at the street. That got to be an issue apparently for Public Works, and so we went to the recycled bags only. I don't know if the manager wants to comment further on that or not, but that.
I can say that we're in a process of issuing an RFP for a new contractor for trash and recycling services. We talked about at the last meeting where we were approving an interlocal agreement with the 3 other towns that are made up of Surf City, Topsail Beach, and Holly Ridge as well, where we're going out for a request for proposal, and it's for different services, and the intent is for, we're going to get prices for a bulk pickup that would be one time a year That's going to be included in that RFP. Now, that'll be at the board's discretion at that point in time, but we'll have the pricing so that the board can consider it when we go through that process.
Would it
and get
only
the
be once
pricing.
a year?
Once a year.
Well, Silver City has it every month.
Well, some of them don't have it, some of them have it once a year, and,
And also, you're saying it's cause of money. I live at 231 Seashore Drive, directly across from the beach access. What you're building right now is the biggest waste of money I've ever seen on this island. You have to walk up 10 steps to get to a 5-foot, 30-foot path of all this wood wasted, to get to another 6 steps to get up to the top. Then you gotta go down 20 steps to get to the beach. What people are gonna go up those steps? And it's an accident waiting to happen. These little kids are gonna be falling off that ramp, and old people can't walk up all those steps. It's just the town's a waste of money.
I don't know which one. I'll have to look to see.
Thank you. Who's next?
That's it. That's it.
That's everybody signed up?
Anyone in the audience that didn't sign up would like to come forward? Okay, we'll move on then. Public presentations and hearings, our coast engineer, Fran Way from ATM. Fran, are you with us? Hey, Fran, we see you.
Yes.
And we hear you. Go ahead.
Great. Just an overview of the beach system here, of North Topsail Beach. We have 5 phases of the shoreline. Phase 1 up near New River Inlet. Phase 5 down near the Surf City, town line. The phases were separated, decades ago, and based on kind of different, just the different geology of sediment kind of stuff. Basically, as soon as you get on Highway 210, there's about 5.5 miles of beach to the south and 5.5 miles of beach to the north. The town does have plans. The town did that nourishment here in Phase 5. That was last year. This upcoming season, Phase 4 is going on. The following season, we have the entire shoreline up here in the Phases 1, 2, and 3 done. And then up here, right near New River Inlet, this is the Army Corps of Engineers project that is for this winter. That is up to 88,000 cubic yards of material. That 88,000, we can get into that a little bit more. The town does have permits pretty much for the entire shoreline. A lot of these permits are, some of these permits, there's some permitting issues. We can get into that here in a little bit later about just working during the turtle nesting and hatching season. Where any kind of FEMA project, it's pretty easy to work during the turtle nesting and hatching season. But if it's not a FEMA sponsored project, working during the turtle nesting and hatching season can be an ordeal from the permitting side for threatened and endangered species. Here's the Corps Navigation Dredging and Placement Project. The bids were due last week, but they're not. I went and checked this morning. The bids are now due October 4. But this is where they are just dredging these intercoastal waterway tangents and then placing the material here. And I know the board is aware of this. That a lot of times they do not make this this entire stretch of beach. They have before, 10 years ago, but the last few times they have not. But at the same time, that is good material, and that's a beneficial reuse of dredge material. And with all the storm systems, maybe there is even more than that 88,000 that can get placed on the beach.
Before you leave that, Fran, Would you
Yes.
just remind people, because we seem to have this discussion every time they do a project, it is not our project, it is not our money, okay? It is their project to do the dredging, and while we hope that they coordinate with us to put the sand where we want it, it is up to them. Is that a fair assessment?
That is entirely correct. And then even then, with the Corps themselves, where, you know, the town had all their easements in place just 2 years ago, and then this year, Alice had to kind of run around trying to find easements that were in place 2 years ago, so I have no idea. So kind of the bureaucracy of the Army Corps of Engineers can, yes, there's multiple elements of that, and this is a core project, and yes, they have total control over it.
Thank you.
And just to update on that as well, I received everything back except for the two. I've asked the Army Corps of Engineers, I suggested that they perhaps try to reach out to those individuals themselves to see if they have better luck in getting a response.
That's 2 of the easements.
Yes.
Okay, this is down to the Phase 5 beach. This was restored. This project, you know, it was a successful project. It was good sand, and it is, you know, helping. And the beach is also kind of protecting the dune. And we've been seeing during some of these storm systems that the dune system has been holding up a lot better because it's got protection of that beach. And we'll talk a little bit more about the north end here, but this is the Phase 4 project that is slated to begin here on November 16, about 6 weeks from now. And that is another beach nourishment. The dunes in this area have been doing okay based on the recent surveys, and TI Coastal just sent finished some of TI Coastal, as Alice mentioned, is finishing up the surveying and the volume calcs. And they did actually just email Alice some of the stuff during this meeting. But by the end of today, we should have, you know, pretty much all the volume calcs. And that's just after, you know, potential tropical storm 8, PTC 8, and does not include Helene. But it will give us a good idea of kind of what's happening out there since the July annual monitoring survey, which is kind of our pre-project survey. Here's the DA 143 project. That's for the phases 1 through 3. This is also going to be, and I know Chris Gibson had spoke about this at the BISAC a couple weeks ago, and Larry will talk about it as well. This is, you know, was mostly planned to be a beach nourishment, not a dune project. But, you know, considering some of the effects of the dune, we'll see if we want to kind of get in there this season and put additional material either on the upper beach or the upper beach and the dune or the dune system itself. A lot of times it's with these storm systems, the kind of the beach buffers the dune, and then the dune of course buffers the upland. If we just fix the dune, a lot of times that gets hit too often during king tides and high tides, as it should. It should not get hit as often as it does. So in that case, I really do think we should put sand on the beach to protect the dune, which can also protect the upland. If we just do the dune, that might get taken out and that sand might just go onto the beach. And usually that material does stay on the beach, and we can even see it on the survey data. And the next board meeting in November, we will go over all the dune cross sections and the beach losses over these storms. Larry will go over more of this, but it does show, 2.6 million cubic yards to DA 143 is the most up-to-date volume analysis, so that's good. So basically between 2.6 and 1.9 million cubic yards. So this is a big, over this, about 5 miles of shoreline. This is a large nourishment. It should last several years, many years. Based on it's about the same size as the Phase 5 nourishment, or even possibly a little bigger if they get more volume. Just to touch upon all the projects, and I did this when I turned this in about, 10 days in advance, so it doesn't even mention Helene. But, TPC 8 and king tides, they caused some erosion. The beach did hold up generally well. We got a little bit lucky that during the Helene, there were no king tides. We were out of that phase. But still, there was still erosion. The Phase 1 course project, that is out for bid. The New River Inlet Management Master Plan, I have been coordinating with Valcordy and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers who are running the EIS. The Army Corps has, requested additional analysis, and we're getting them that analysis. I've supplied that to Valcordy, and Valcordy is supplying it to the Army Corps of Engineers. It does seem like the draft EIS is going to stay on the latest schedule. And it is tough because the town, even back in 2017 with Stewart and that board, basically the limit was $500,000 was for the EIS and all the engineering. And for us to do that, we needed to use the existing modeling that CP&E did for North Topsail Beach between 2013 and 2017. And so some of the things that the Army Corps of Engineers is asking for is additional analysis that we would have to go to CP&E to ask them to rerun models. So I am pushing back and I'm saying, it does feel like we're a little bit in analysis paralysis, and that's kind of an Army Corps thing sometimes. And I'm trying to push this forward, and I know Alderman Benson and the mayor are also helping, trying to push this forward and keep this on schedule, even though it has slipped. The post-tropical storm has been completed, as Alice mentioned, and the volume should be here. The volume losses between pre-project in July and post-project, just from a couple weeks ago, we will have that by the end of today, and we will discuss. In terms of the sand push that Alice mentioned, it is difficult. The permitting during turtle nesting and hatching season, and turtle nesting and hatching season goes from May 1 to November 15, and to do a sand push in that window is it's almost just like getting a regular permit. You have to go there, and it's all about going to the Fish and Wildlife Service for the biological opinion update and everything. So I do think we will have I will discuss with Chris Gibson and with Alice about kind of what we want to do up there. And basically in the phases, 1, 2, and 3, where we saw the most kind of the dune losses, significant dune losses. And that, do we want to go back in there and push? And I know the board pushing isn't really a great thing because, as I mentioned before, the beach is protecting the dune, and you're just taking the sand from the beach to the dune. That dune is actually just going to get hit a little bit more. So that it's the sand push is bringing in new sand is a better option, but obviously it can be more costly. We still continue to work with the North Topsail Beach finance officer and DEC associates regarding kind of the FEMA projects and getting refunded on getting the mitigation funds for the Phase 5 project, Florence projects, and we're continuing with the grant coordination and permitting for all the projects. And that is.
Any questions for Fran?
I have a comment. Comment is about the Army Corps wanting the additional modeling for this project that is taking seemingly forever. It's just this alderman's opinion that maybe if they hadn't sat on this thing for several years, that modeling would still be current, and they're a victim of their own procrastination.
Fran, I appreciate your effort to push back on this modeling because, as Alderman Leonard just said, we're 7 years into an EIS that was supposed to have been done 5 years ago, according to the original timeline, 5 years ago. And computers do run during COVID, and people do work at home during COVID.
This thing was a classic case
So-
of the dog ate my homework.
Yeah,
You know, at first it was Florence, and everything stopped because of Hurricane Florence, and then when we got through that, COVID hit, and it was like, you know, I don't know what the next thing is. Is it going to be Helene or, you know, whatever? But
Okay.
the Corps' done it to themselves here.
Let me just point out something, though, and I think Larry will talk about it in a minute. The whole idea behind this beach plan that we're putting together and all the permitting and stuff is because we're not relying on these guys anymore, these people anymore. And so the projects that we're talking about, the permitting, doing the temporary structure up in the north, doing all the other stuff, we're not holding that up, and I think Larry will verify that when he comes up on the BISAC thing. We're not holding up our beach plans and what we're planning on doing over the next couple of years, waiting for this to happen.
Right.
We're assuming it's not gonna happen within any time frame that we're not waiting 5 years to do
Right.
beach work, I guess is my
Understand.
point.
I understand. It's just that
It's
whole
just-
thing.
It's just been an issue, a lot of frustration for a lot of us, and a lot of homeowners, property owners on the north end particularly, that have had to suffer through this delayed process. That's all we're saying. So Fran, we do applaud your efforts with the pushback, and hopefully can move forward without additional modeling.
Thanks, Fran. Appreciate
Thank
it.
Okay, let's move on to the consent agenda. By approving the consent agenda, we are approving the two change budget requests, budget amendments, plus the fire station change order that's contained in the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So
Motion
moved.
to approve.
So Alderman Leonard, thank you for the motion.
That was
Alderman
Connie.
Plettle,
Yeah,
second.
either one.
Second.
Here we go.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? say
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, continuing business. Our next item is a report from the BISAC committee chaired by Larry Struther. Larry?
Good morning. Why do I always have to follow Fran? Well, I know, no comment. We had the BISAC committee, which is the Beach Inlet Sound Advisory Committee, for anybody new that we have here. And we're a committee that was formed a few years ago to assist the board and to help the board with what needs to be done to our beaches and trying to take the 5 phases that we called and create engineered beaches for the whole North Topsail Beach section, which the biggest positive about that, besides the safety factors and everything else, has to do with FEMA, because we only have one phase that is subject to FEMA, and that's phase 5, and we're trying to get the entire beach to where it can do that. That's part of the COBRA problem that we've had that Alderman Leonard has dealt with. But we're this 5/30-year plan that has been being worked on for the past almost 3 years now, a little longer, and we have, and I'm just giving you history. We have gotten some funding from the board that has allowed us to begin some permitting and design work and various other things. It's still yet to be contracted to where we actually have the whole thing approved to totally move forward, but we're headed that direction. And this committee works with Fran and works with the town, and Chris Gibson, president of TI Coastal, has been working with us on this plan, and he has been developing the main points that are dealing with the 5-year plan. The 5-year plan is an action plan. The 30-year plan is a maintenance plan. And that's very simply put. I mean, there's a lot of other things that goes into the factor there, but in this 5-year set time period, we're trying to get all of our beaches sufficiently filled with sand and can get them to where they're continued to be totally authorized to be engineered beaches, so that our entire beach, if we have catastrophes, we do have access to FEMA money, where right now we do not. So we were a part of the problem that Alderman Leonard was talking about a while ago, that Surf City is still involved in some stuff with the Corps. And we decided, the board decided that we needed to break away from that and do our own thing, and that's where we are now. And we have been doing that through our own funding, some grants that we got. We got a $10.5 million grant last year that helped us do a lot of what we're doing, and we're continuing to look at the potential sources for money. And some of what we're doing is going to give us more access to money than if we were just sitting here and said, hey, we need some money. So anyway, that's just some where we are. We had our last meeting on September the 17th. Manager Darian gave us an update, and at that point in time, most of the update had to do with the first storm that came through, and she told us where we were with that and the reports of what was coming in. She's gone ahead and updated that today with where we are with all that. So I won't belabor that. She did all of that already for us and talked about the beach matting. We did have some conversation. There were some questions and some conversation because GI Coastal has also been working with Topsail Beach for the last 10 plus years or whatever it's been. And during that time period, they've done the same thing down there that we're trying to do up here, except we got a lot more beach to do it with. I mean, we have a lot more, we got twice as much as Alderman Grant, and so it takes a lot more money and a lot more time. But we do have a plan in place, and that plan is I'm gonna just give you a little bit of update on it. There was some conversation about dunes. And because Topsail Beach, if you've not been down there, has 2 sets of dunes. And so, everybody wants to ask, and then we had it in public comment, just questions at our last meeting. When we finish what we're doing, will we have 2 dunes? And the answer is no. I mean, this is the projects that we're working on is trying to get our beach to the level that we need it to be, and to get our dunes to the levels that they need to be. And then down the road, and we can't say how far down the road, it just depends on the storms and what happens over the years and money.
Not good.
But at some point down the road, our goal would be to have 2 sets of dunes. And when you do that, things change. Things change from having wooden steps and all going down to where you've got rope and crossovers and various things. And because when you got 2 sets of dunes, you're basically having a whole different situation when storms come. There's in Topsail Beach, they've had over the last few years, they've had no loss of a lot of beach, and no loss of steps from crossovers and all these kind of things from the storms that came through. Part of that is because they got more beach, they got more dunes, they got the second set of dunes out there. So, that's a long range project. That's in the 30-year plus plan as we start going across with that. But just to get you up to date to where we are, Chris Gibson made a presentation to give us a status and update where we are, and I'll just share that with you real quickly. As Fran talked about, he talked about DA 143, which is a disposal area that had been used for years when they dredge in the area, and it's actually that we had to go back. It's been there for a long time, and there was a last analysis. It was analyzed lastly in 2012, but the information's changed due to regulatory situations, so we had to go back and do that again, which they have done. At this past meeting, he had his people come, and they brought a lot of core material that they had came out of there with so that we could actually see what we're dealing with and what's happening, but it's a 48 acre site. It's right at the intersection of Cedar Bush Cut and the international, the intercoastal waterway and the inlet and all those places. Big right there on the corner there. You've seen it many times if you've been there on boat. Well, as Fran was talking about, there's a couple million cubic yards of sand in that, and so that's what we've been working on to get and so it's now been done, and we're actually we did 15 core analysis. It was previously done, like I said, in 2012. We have anywhere between 25 and 50 feet of good sand in this site vertically. That's a lot of dirt. I mean, you can't even fathom about how much dirt you're talking about there. And we're,
I think you mean sand, not dirt.
oh, well, it's yeah.
Just had a heart attack there.
I know. You know, come on, give me a break. I mean, I'm just an old country boy, you know. You know, I'm just trying to. I'm just proud to be here. You know what I'm saying? Let me have my story. I'll make it up as I go. But I'll straighten it out before we get done. It'll all be correct. Anyway, they drilled tubes in there of over 60 foot long. To elevation minus 25 and sampled them and did all kind of stuff. The results are that we're getting 700,000 more yards of sand. We're getting 700,000 more yards of sand that are available than the last time it was analyzed. That's a lot of sand. And they can do, the advanced technologies and machinery allowed us to do more economical project with more volume. So it's just, we're like, the dredge will come in after Cedar Bush cut and dredge straight. What they're going to do, we're going to put a dredge out there and it'll go straight in. We'll go straight in and we're going to run the piping is going to come from the backside and it's going to come out up in between. I don't know exactly where it's going to be, but anyway, it's coming into where it's going to be going north and south from there. We'll be pumping some south and then start pumping it north. And so the dredge, there will be 2 million yards of capacity for the Army Corps and the locals to use this site. This is how we get funding because we're rehabilitating this site. In other words, we're taking out, but we're rehabilitating it, so we're actually going to be able to get funding from the government because of a rehabilitation process that we're going through there. So we're just looking for every place that we can get money because it's going to take a lot of money. And a lot of the money is going to be self-funded, but we've planned for that. We've got that in our planning process, assuming everything stays status quo or better. The total project is going to be $35 to $45 million with state funding of $25 to $30 million of it. So we're going to do some big time begging and borrowing and be able to get that done. And people like Chris and Fran and all those guys had the access to be able to put in and put together the request where we can get the funding. Chris was directly responsible for us getting our $10.5 million last year.
So Larry, what's the next big step in this process that you're going to tell us about?
What's happening, the next step is to schedule a one-stop meeting. The one-stop meeting is going to be between October and November. Sometime during that time period, it's going to be had, and they'll have to meet, and he'll have to lay out everything that we're going to do, and there'll be different government officials and all there. Be one representative from the town, which will probably be our manager, and they'll have that meeting. It's not an open meeting. It's a meeting where they say, okay, this is what we're going to do, and we need your permission to do that. Basically, what's happening.
Yeah. basically, it's all the state agencies that
Yeah,
have
that's
any
right.
input in permitting a beach nourishment project. So
That's right.
they will hear the initial plan, and then they will give feedback to TI Coastal, and he'll bring that back to the BISAC committee, and then eventually to the Board of
Yeah.
Aldermen.
And we've had meetings with the Corps and different people, and so I'd tell you that they've not designated the beach yet because they wanted to get the hard numbers. Originally they had not intended of putting any kind of dune feature in. But because of what's happening with these storms, there's probably gonna have to be some combination of dune work and beach work done at the same time when all that takes place. But all that's gonna be subject to some of the reports that Fran's gonna be getting in and that Chris and them's gonna be getting to all of them. So the crossovers, anyway, the whole thing is gonna be brought in at somewhere around, I don't remember where it is exactly, but they're gonna be pushing dirt both ways, and I think they said they can put that dirt down in what time was it?
It'll be done in one winter season.
So in one
from
season, we
November
can
to April.
do the entire process. And you see how long the trucking takes when you start doing all that. So we need to obtain an easement from the electric company. From the state side, the beach has been permitted as part of the environmental impact study, and that's what Fran was saying. Now it's just about showing that this borrow source is viable. If they determine that it's viable, which everybody believes it will be. So time frame, October, November, one-stop meeting, March to April of 25, issue contract to a contractor. May through September of 25, clear and grub the borrow area and prep it for a dredge. October of 25, which is basically a year from now, we'll start mobilizing to lay pipelines to start pumping. November of 25, and this is the guidelines, and so far we're on track. I mean, from what our first projections were to when we thought we'd be to this point, within a month or so, everything's on track to that point. So we're hoping by November of 25, we'll begin to work on the beach. 2.7 million yards of sand is a lot to pump in a season. We expect to put about 20,000 to 30,000 cubic yards of sand on the beach per day. And we would, and the power lines, that's around Highway 210 bridge, pipeline will flip and we'll start going north. So March of April of 26, we'll be finishing the project, which is for reaches 1, 2, and 3. The town has phase 4, which is fixing to be done. If all this comes to play, then, you know, in mid 26 or so, late 26, we should have all of our beaches be considered engineered beaches.
That'll be a great accomplishment.
And that's notwithstanding, that's notwithstanding any, you know, hurricanes or various things that might slow us down. But
All right.
if all this could be accomplished in the proposed timelines, our beaches will be considered engineered and have access to FEMA money.
Right.
And that's the whole, besides saving the beaches, that's such an important factor for longevity.
Right.
Just a couple of clarifications, if I could. One is, all of our beaches today have access to FEMA money. What we're talking about is, the difference is, from the Phase 5 beach, which is an engineered beach, which 4 will be as well, is, under an engineered beach, they'll replace the dunes too. And so for 1, 2, and 3, we have dune erosion right now. FEMA will not replace those. So, you know, they'll do some beach work for us,
That's
but
right.
they will not do the dunes.
That's right.
That's the second thing, as
Wait a
he
minute now.
mentioned.
Let's get this straight. FEMA Category B is dune restoration. After Hurricane Matthew, we restored the dunes in the Cobra area, but not the flat part, the berm, the beach part. Category G is what's going on down in Phase 5, which is the beach part, not the dune. Because
So-
the dune was okay.
Right. So, anyway, the other thing too is, since we don't know what they're going to permit, our plan is to get all the permitting done. To the extent whatever printing we can get. The board has authorized basically the engineering work, the permitting work, and the money has been funded already on that. So that's all set. Until we come back and know what they're gonna permit for us, we don't know what we're gonna be able to do. The plan is, we're setting up the money and the funding and the grants and stuff to do everything, but whatever they're gonna allow us to do is what we're planning on doing.
That's right. And so, I mean, and that's why they call it a plan.
So,
You know, it's a
Okay,
5/30-year plan.
we-
and,
we
you know, you can
appreciate-
plan the best laid plan of men and boys, you know. It works. But this is, we're so far ahead of where we were
Right.
3 years ago.
right, thanks a lot. So much for your report, Larry, appreciate it. We're moving forward, we have a plan. The next item, I think, is mine. North Topsail Beach letter to state representatives requesting a shellfish moratorium, public waters around North Topsail Beach. This is a continuing agenda item from last month. We were talking about, at the time, the increased number of shellfish leases that are coming to Onslow and Pender County, particularly because counties to the north, or at least Bug Banks and Core Sound and New Hanover County and Brunswick County have passed moratoriums on new shellfish leases because there has been really too much interaction density of new leases along with the existing leases, and we have about 30 existing leases here behind the North Topsail end of the Salt Marsh area along the Intercoastal Waterway. Density is increasing. There's conflict now between recreational boaters and tourism and commercial aquaculture. People requesting these leases are coming from those areas to the north, from the north and the south, driving an hour, dragging their material down to this area because it's the only place they can get a shellfish lease. So basically what we're proposing in the letter that's in the board packet is that the state legislature consider a moratorium on additional shellfish leases in Onslow and Pender County. We're not restricting the number that are already in place. Those will continue on as they have in the past. All we're asking for is there's a pause to figure out what the next step is, but we shouldn't be the ones that are suffering here in terms of tourism and boater access in recreational activities because of interference of these shellfish leases, particularly column leases where there's material in a column on which the oyster spawn develop into the oysters that are harvested. And as a side, Surf City has approved a moratorium. Onslow County has approved a moratorium resolution that they have sent to our state leaders. Pender County has it on their agenda on October 7th, I believe. Topsail Beach has approved a moratorium, and the wording of the letter in our packet includes the changes. There were a couple phrases that were changed in the letter that was originally developed at Surf City. So basically, I'm asking you to think about the justifications that I've mentioned and the ones that were spelled out in the September packet of why we need to request our legislatures pass a moratorium on shellfish leases in Onslow County particularly, but also Pender County, our neighbors on Topsail Island. Discussion from the board, or do we need, I guess we should have a motion.
Yeah.
I'll make the motion to approve the shellfish moratorium letter.
Thank you, Alderman Pledl. Second.
Second it.
All right, Alderman Leonard, thanks for the second. Let's have a discussion.
Okay, just real quick, I actually did some research on this. One is, I don't mind the letter and stuff, but just for clarification, I don't know that you need legislation. Because when you read the stuff that's out there, I think that that commission can actually do this. So whether we send a letter on probably doesn't matter, but the stuff, because the moratoriums have been in since '89 for those areas. They're not recent moratoriums on the other ones that are there. So I don't have any problem with this at all. And I would also thank, I had some people send me some pictures of these water column things. I had no idea that those were oyster things. And so it's pretty, I was looking at the white sticks and thinking, how can this be a problem? When you look at what these water column things are, they're a problem. And I think that's one of the big things. And like I said, I don't have any problem with it, but I would hope that whatever is done, when I was reading the stuff that they had, in the original legislation, they exempted, Brunswick County. But since then, they've done other moratoriums themselves, the agency has. And so I would hope they could just do an agency thing and avoid that. So I hope whoever's pushing this legislatively can move it quicker. Any kind of legislation is going to take forever.
Right, this will go back to the Topsail Island Shoreline Protection Commission
Right.
for advocacy work to get this approved, either if it needs state statute or if we can
Whatever
do
it
it through the
takes.
state agencies, DEQ state
Yep.
agencies.
No, I'm all for it. I'm hoping there's a faster way because the Bogue Sound and New Hanover County got their stuff in 19 and 21. So I think that this should be something they should pay attention to, and hopefully we can push it through. Anyway, I just did some research on it, but when I saw the water column stuff, that's all I needed to see is that
To the
doesn't make any sense.
uninitiated voter, it can be a real issue on damaging the prop on an outboard motor.
These things are massive.
Mhm.
Or an inboard outboard.
Or, yeah.
Anyway, that's
Any
my
other
comment. I
other
support it
discussion?
fully.
Call the question.
All right, all in favor of the moratorium letter, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. It's unanimous, approved. Okay. New business, Alderman Grant, Kama.
Ricky, would you put those pictures? It's something we really need to update, given what's going on in the town, going this kind of stuff. And when I was talking to Braxton, the head of CAMA, this is some time ago, I sent him a picture of something like this once, and what his response back to me was, we talked, it was a very nice conversation. He said, CAMA is only the minimum. You can do a lot more than that. So if you want more restrictions, and I think you mentioned, Laura, what was the town that's looking?
Oak Island.
Oak Island is doing some stuff. I think we need to step back a little bit because I think we're seeing building, and I think people have seen some of the social media stuff about why are you guys allowing this? And the answer is because our system allows it. But I think we ought to step back on this thing, take a look at it. And so I'd ask the board to consider by consensus, seeing if the town manager can, at least pursue this a little bit, and then come back to us. Not make a decision today, but I'd like to have the consensus of the board to at least consider going back and revisiting our current plan. Oops, that's all I had.
Discussion?
I'd like to hear from the town manager. You good with this? You good
If
with
it's a
this?
priority of the board.
Okay.
I think it's one of the priorities, and I think it is one of the priorities, but we also, at this time, I don't want to stop you from doing the 10,000 things that are high priorities that we've already tasked you for, or with. I'd like it put in the shuffle when you get to it, not that it's, I think it's one of the priorities.
The only thing I would add to that, that's why I think we ought to use the third party to do it. Okay, rather than trying to have her actually work on that, or our planning department, we don't have the resources to do this with any, in my opinion, with any kind of reasonable time frame. And it's not something that you should have to spend hours and hours on. If there's, I think that's what the county did too. Didn't they hire somebody to redo their plan?
Yeah, I
I'm just throwing
absolutely
that
agree
out.
with that's the way forward to do this.
Sure.
I absolutely agree that it needs to be done that way. And somebody who's dedicated and does this for a living and, you know.
So I think it would be helpful to go to the county and see what they did in their hiring process and what kind of skill set they looked for to help us do
yeah.
I
that.
don't know if they necessarily hired somebody to do it or if they just contract, oh, that they did. I would think we could contract this out.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Okay,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There are companies, environmental companies that specialize in these sorts of things.
I just want to add to the recent agreements of the board, the contracts that you approved at the last meeting. Some of those firms have that in their proposal where they look at that so that it can be easily executed by a task order with one of the companies that we have an executed contract with already, but I'll need to review it.
Okay,
So
so
are there-
it would be a matter then of contacting some companies to get estimates of what it might cost to do
Yes.
So Alice,
update to the Cameron Land Use Plan?
would you need help in coming up with a scope for that by another third party, or are we able to do a scope of work for that company?
No, we would be able to, I would just sit down with the company that we have an executed contract with and then come up with the scope.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you.
We're moving right along. Open forum. No signees. Anyone like to come up? Mark?
This is more of a public service announcement. I didn't hear you guys bring it up, but I'm sure long.
Turn that mic on there, will you, Mark?
Yeah, this is more of a public service announcement. I didn't hear it brought up
Could you
before.
Wait a minute. Give us your name and address for the record.
Mark
Remember, now,
Barrett,
folks, the reason we're doing all this stuff kind of formal like is you don't see a town clerk sitting over there taking the minutes, do
Yes-
you?
yes,
Or
sir.
writing down the names of the
Mark-
people that are coming up here. She's
Mark-
got to go back and look at that tape. Go ahead, Mark.
Mark Barefoot, 246 Sandpiper. All right. Thank you for everything you do, your time, energy, and efforts, and thank you guys for realizing the priority list because I understand the priorities. So thank you for taking things off of her because I know she's maxed out. So appreciate that. But basically, back to the public service announcement. Sure, law enforcement already knows Real Housewives of Tottsville Island Saturday morning. So the road's going to be packed with bicyclists. So just remember, tell your family, friends, neighbors, renters. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Okay.
Nothing at this time.
Good job. Was that it on?
Yeah, there was nobody else that wanted to speak, public comment? Okay. And attorney's report, we've heard that. Mayor's report, Mayor, do you want to give a report? Mayor?
She dropped off.
Okay. Alderman's report, we'll start with Alderman Grant.
It was Spectrum. I'm sorry. I had to get the cheap shot in on that one. Just real quick on the whole CAMA stuff and everything else. At the last ONWASA board meeting, okay, I brought up the fact that, and I anecdotally have talked to people about the leakage and stuff that's going on. ONWASA has got an issue with leaks and everything else. And I think, Mike, I mentioned to you the sewage leak that they had. And so what we've asked as a board for the CEO to go back and start looking at replacing old systems because there is nothing in there. There's no plan to replace the old stuff that's out there. And a lot of this stuff is aging. Anecdotally, I had an irrigation meter put in. Is Terry still here? And when they went in just to do the tap, they had 3 plant trucks come out there because that simple tap turned into major leakage on old pipe that had nothing to do with my line. And so I think we're going to be seeing that a lot. And I guess the whole point of this is ONWASA's taking a look and at what they're able to do, pressure and everything else. And as I was just talking to Laura about a little bit ago, when this station comes up and the pressure on that line increases, I'm pretty sure we're going to see more leakage, not less. And so it's something that needs to be looked at from an infrastructure standpoint and leakage. And so thanks for coming. Appreciate everybody coming today. But on behalf of the board, I think we talked about this before, I am pushing them to make sure that we are safe here and going forward, so thanks.
Okay, Alderman Shesky,
I don't have a report today, thank you.
Alderman Leonard.
I appreciate everybody coming out and attending today. It's good to see everybody. As I mentioned in my invocation, this month marks the anniversary of the Beirut bombing back in October 23rd, 1983. Every year, Jacksonville hosts, Camp Lejeune hosts a memorial service, which I'll be attending this year. It's on the 23rd at 10 o'clock in the morning at the Lejeune Memorial Gardens, adjacent to the Veterans Cemetery there. I'm attending the elected official working lunch at the base, hosted by the commanding officer, Marine Corps Installation East, on October the 17th. I think we all got invites to that. It's probably a good thing to go to. Lastly, as Mr. Barefoot mentioned about the bike ride on Saturday, I'll be one of those folks out there. I'll be riding the breast awareness, Real Housewives of Topsail Island breast cancer awareness run. We had 2 breast cancer survivors in my family, my mother and my sister. That's all I have.
Alderman Flittle.
First, I want to thank everybody for coming or else joining us at home. Thank you for the town so much, Alice and the staff, for your storm response. It was great. As far as sea turtles, we lost about 9 nests during the king tides. There are 2 nests left to hatch in North Topsail Beach, a total of 6 on the island. Everybody, a lot of our residents were really great this year in switching to the amber lighting or turning out their beachfront lights. That was awesome. Like to see more next year. As for the Halloween event, this is our 2nd annual Halloween event, Halloween, with the dogs. No cats because, they don't cooperate. If anyone would like to make... They don't cooperate. Not with the dogs. If anyone would like to make any donations for the event for our raffle, themed baskets, gift cards, local artists, anything like that, any businesses would like to do that, just get up with me or Alice and we'll be happy to accept them. Hope to see you there. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I want to, Mayor Pro Tem's report, I want to really thank Town Manager Durian for her efforts and the staff's efforts during the storm. It's a shame we lost so much beach during Debbie in certain areas. But water runs downhill pretty fast sometimes. And we really need to take a moment and just be hopeful for the people in western North Carolina, eastern Tennessee that were affected by hurricane and are still recovering. I have contacts over there that I can't get in contact with. So there's a lot of disaster relief programs, so if you feel so moved, please consider donating to disaster relief. It's kind of a somber moment, Hurricane could have hit us, caused a lot of damage here. It didn't. So I don't want to really end on that sad a note, but it is, for me, a sad time, and I'm sure many people. So, okay. Let's go into closed session. Per North Carolina General Statute 143.318.11, subsection A, to consult with our new attorneys. So,
Make that motion.
okay.
Second.
Alderman Leonard, thanks for the motion. Alderman Oshetsky, thanks for the second. We are now going into closed session.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Yes, Ricky.
All right, I need a motion to come out of closed session.
So moved.
Alderman Leonard,
So
thank
moved.
you for that.
Second.
Alderman Oshewski, thank you for a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're unanimous.
No actions were taken.
No actions were taken in closed session. Need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Alderman Leonard, second.
Second.
Thank you,
Aye.
Alderman Oshewski. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.